Hi.
Hi.
Good to be here. How are you?
Good, good. It is Saxon and Emma's podcast. So,
That's it. Brand new podcast. How
brand new
exciting.
podcast, yes. So, do you want to introduce yourself to
Yes,
start out?
yes, I would love to. So I am Emma Davis, and I am a naturopath. And I'm here as a part of the team at the Healthy Living Chiropractic Clinic. Very excited in Wodonga. And yeah, we're going to be talking about all sorts of things today. But I'm a naturopath. So and
Fantastic.
over to you,
Fantastic.
Saxon.
So, I'm Dr. Saxon Selvey, chiropractor and PhD. We've been the principal of Healthy Living Chiropractic in Wodonga since 2005. Before that, I was a molecular genetics research scientist as well. And I believe today our first topic we're going to kick off with is going to be inflammation.
It's a big one.
It is. So, I mean, I guess inflammation seems to be playing a role in just about every health issue you can imagine, from heart disease and cancer to chronic pain. So let's dive in.
Let's dive in. There's a lot to talk about. Picked a big one to start with. Why not?
Yeah. Well, maybe you want to kick it off first.
Absolutely. Well, look, I think a
Perspective.
question a lot of people ask really is, what is inflammation? So we always talk about conditions, they're inflammatory. There's inflammation involved, but what does that actually mean? So maybe if we start with, okay, let's interrogate, what is inflammation? Where does it come from? So
Yeah.
why not, let's spin on that one for a bit.
Yeah. Well, I guess, from my perspective as managing musculoskeletal issues, it's often is a tendinitis or tendinosis. And so tendinitis is an inflamed tendon. Anything that's itis on the end, even if it's hepatitis, is an inflamed liver. Tendinitis is an inflamed tendon, but sometimes sometimes these things can be painful, but they're not actually inflamed, and that's more tendinosis, which is more long-term scarring and adhesions and things rather than an actual hot inflammatory response. So it's worth being aware of that difference.
Absolutely. And there's different labels for inflammation too, depending on where they stem from. And I think, look, as a naturopath, it does matter what type of inflammation it is. It certainly does. But I think the main thing that we forget is that inflammation is actually a protective mechanism in the body.
Yeah, it's part of the healing
It's
process.
part of the healing process. It's not, although it's painful and uncomfortable and very unpleasant in a lot of conditions for sure, it's important to note that it actually has a purpose in the body. The body is trying to release inflammatory cytokines, it's trying to release inflammatory mediators to tell the immune system to clean up house. It is trying to get the body to stimulate that healing reaction. And unfortunately, in the way that we live at the moment, we really do focus on suppressing inflammation at all costs.
And I know there's studies now even showing taking anti-inflammatories and even using ice, it is effective short-term pain relief, but it does slow the healing process. So, people say, well, when should you use ice? Well, yeah, it depends. So it's not necessarily good for everything, but if you're wanting to get back on the netball court or back on the soccer field to finish off your match, then absolutely put some ice on, get out there and play. But if you're wanting to just, okay, I'm resting, I don't have to do anything, and I just want to heal, then you're actually better not to overuse these anti-inflammatories, because, it's part of the process of healing the body and knitting everything back together again.
It's so true. And often we'll end up getting to a place with our health that we end up pretty much falling in a heap because we've been pushing our body for so long to just continue dealing with these sources of inflammation and not actually giving the body any chance to repair. So that's where looking at nutrition or looking at having regular routine adjustment where you're actually correcting the tissue damage over time in the right way makes a massive difference when it comes to the healing process.
Yeah.
So we certainly miss out on that quite a bit with the way that we look at it in modern society, I suppose.
Yeah,
And
I think everyone's after a magic pill to fix their problems, but all those magic pills come with side effects, and they're not actually magic.
That's it. And look,
they are temporary at best, and it's kind of like a Band-Aid management thing.
That's right.
And that's not to say it doesn't have its place, but it shouldn't be the be-all and end-all if you're not actually working towards fixing the underlying cause of the problem.
It's very true. And I think too, it's, as you say, Saxon, it's all about, symptom management is going to be in there for sure. If you've got a chronic inflammatory condition, it could be a gut disorder, it could be IBS, it could be IBD, it could be a chronic musculoskeletal condition, it could be rheumatoid arthritis, it could be a number of different inflammatory conditions. And we need to give that patient relief first and foremost. We need to make sure they can get through a typical day. And that is what we often will start with, is symptomatically, we need to get things actually working.
Just get them feeling better,
get them feeling better, get them moving.
Step one.
Which is step one. But I think what we do forget is there's also step 2, 3, and 4 for the long term, isn't it?
So perhaps do you want to go into some more detail from your perspective? Yeah, what would step 2, 3, and 4 entail?
Absolutely. So once we've got the initial symptoms under control, let's use an example of one of my patients with rheumatoid arthritis, for example. They actually had rheumatoid and osteoarthritis, so nasty combination there. Yeah. But we're talking all about the immune reaction in that type of situation with rheumatoid. We're talking about autoimmune conditions, so the immune system chronically producing pain signals, chronically trying to compensate for this degeneration happening in the musculoskeletal system. And first of all, yes, it is actually, let's do some anti-inflammatory. Let's use some curcumin, is something that we use quite a bit of. A lot of you would know that from turmeric. Curcumin in the right dosages at the right therapeutic indication with how much we actually put in the body of curcumin does make a great difference. It really does. It can help to alleviate some inflammation. So we start there. And from there, we're looking at, okay, what else is happening in the immune system? What else is going on? What key nutrients are we actually missing?
Yeah.
So, you do have typical blood tests you might do where we're checking iron, we're checking vitamin D. Sometimes you might even be able to get your vitamin Bs, all your Bs tested. And beyond that, symptomatically, are you having muscle cramps? Do you have fatigue? Are you, suffering from a lot of I guess just conditions where there's little symptoms going on, maybe some gut symptoms that you're, some bloating. And that's giving us a lot of clues as to what nutrients we're trying to actually address and fix here.
Yeah.
And the body needs these nutrients to repair. We cannot exist without these nutrients. Protein, fats, carbohydrates are the macros.
Tissue,
They are the building blocks of your tissue. So that's where we then start talking about nutrition, is how we establish an enjoyable way of eating that looks at repairing the body from a foundational level. So that's a really big part of what we do from a treat the cause perspective, is the food department, for sure.
And I guess gut health and chronic constipation and things like that must be a huge factor. I sometimes feel that with some of my patients, that I'm focusing on the musculoskeletal aspects of chronic inflammation usually gets back to stuck joints and bad posture. So if you've got bad posture, you're constantly compressing certain areas of your spine, constantly re-injuring them, creating local hotspots of inflammation. And so short term, we want to adjust them, we want to get them feeling better and moving better, but long term, we want to teach them how to fix their posture, what muscles need to be stretched, what muscles need to be strengthened, and really make that long-term change so they're not just recreating the problem constantly. But I also feel like sometimes with my patients, I can just tell their skin is kind of got this puffy kind of quality to it, and I wonder if they probably haven't got a great diet and they're probably in a systemic state of chronic inflammation, and perhaps that's sending a 3 out of 10 pain problem in their musculoskeletal system up to a 6 out of 10. And if they could take care of that side of things as well, they'd probably do much better overall, which is why I think it's a natural relationship between a chiropractor and a naturopath to be working alongside one another.
Absolutely. And we both, I suppose, help each other to identify where these sources are coming from with inflammation. So what is the patient potentially doing? What's the individual doing that we can support them with, so that they aren't exposed to things or ways of living or foods potentially that are causing this level of inflammation. So how we actually go about that. You mentioned detox, liver detox, and that kind of puffiness you see a lot with stress. So cortisol hormone, stress
hormone. Poor sleep, and again, if people have got chronic pain, they often don't sleep well, they toss and turn, and then they get more stressed and more inflamed. And I find that's often one of the first side effects of when people do get adjusted. They report, I'm sleeping better, and that's a big plus that helps with those things. And even insulin sensitivity is affected by sleep quality, and as you say, cortisol levels, stress, and what have you. So
that's right. And our body does so much detoxification overnight while we sleep. A lot of the time when I'm going through a case history with a patient, I'm asking them, okay, sleep quality, what's going on? And if you do wake up, have a look at the time. You'd be surprised how many people wake up the same time every night. And especially if it's between the hours of 1 and 3, that's usually when most people's liver is actually doing a lot of heavy lifting overnight, doing those phase 1, phase 2 liver detox. And if we're waking up during that, that is essentially saying that something is not quite gelling in that process, and our liver needs support, needs that extra help with the inflammation, which is interesting. So detox, you're right, detox is huge, and if our liver's not happy, then we're going to be experiencing pain much more acutely because we're not processing those inflammatory hormones that are released when we are in pain.
I guess something that I like to explain to my patient, I mean, I'm not a naturopath or a nutrition expert, but I try to just break it down in simple terms for my patients sometimes to say, look, the heart of liver detox really is just emptying the bowel, because all the blood from the bowel goes stented through the liver. So that's how you unload the liver, is just get some fruit and vegetables and fiber through there and flush everything through. And I often say to people, but getting some fiber and drinking lots of water is the cheap, easy way to just start that process. But obviously someone like yourself is going to go into much more detail specifically. But at the end of the day, if you can, get the bowels moving better, will take a huge load off the liver.
It's very true, and you're right. And a lot of people they do have bowel issues. Either there's a diarrhea or a malabsorption, if we get into the technical space with that, or if we're constipated, then we're not moving through and processing the toxins our body's trying to get rid of all the time. And that's often number one, what I will start with patients. We talk about gut health is, how are your bowels moving? Are you actually detoxing properly? It's amazing how many patients come back to me, 3-4 weeks later and say, oh, the big thing that I really noticed that had a big effect on my energy and how just well I was feeling is the fact that I didn't realize I was constipated, but I wasn't going the 1 to 2 times a day that I needed to. And that made a big difference.
Well, I think
it's
not
necessarily
kind of like
glamorous.
with dehydration, it's like people didn't realize they were dehydrated until they start getting hydrated. And again, people don't realize they've got bad posture until they look at a picture of themselves in profile or see an x-ray showing their head stuck way forward and they're hunching through their upper back and things. So sometimes you've got to experience health before you realize that you weren't owning it as much as you could. But yes,
that's absolutely true.
All right. Well, look, that's some points about inflammation, I guess, in summary. I guess from a chiropractic perspective, chronic pain generally is caused by a lack of feedback from the structures around the spine that aren't feeding normal information back to your brain. And so when we do an adjustment, we restore that normal movement, which stimulates the brain, and then it can activate the muscles that hold you in a better state so that your spine is moving and so that you're able to have good posture. But often those muscles need strengthening as well to permanently change the posture. So I often say to my patients, half my work is adjusting stuck joints and the other half is teaching you guys how to not make them stuck again, which usually is improving movement patterns and improving posture. But certainly that will have a bearing on chronic inflammation, but also it'll have other effects on your health, like sleep quality, and just people's ability to keep exercising too. People often say, well, I want to exercise, but I'm in too much pain, I'm too stiff, I can't even do the exercise. So if we can get people feeling better, moving better and sleeping better, that's a good basis for which to improve that side of it. And then of course, there's supplements and diet and gut health and things from Emma's side as well. So
I think you're right. Listening to what you're saying there is we're trying to be very holistic. We're not just looking at, here's the pain, let's do an adjustment, off you go, come back to me in, a couple of days when it goes back to feeling terrible. It's why is this happening? And preventative medicine, preventative therapies. So from your perspective, correcting these issues and looking at the cause, looking at posture, looking at where the inflammation is coming from. And the same from a naturopathic perspective, we're looking at, where is the inflammation stemming from? Where is our body not getting the adequate amount of support, nutrition? Where are these things in life that we might be exposed to more inflammation and toxins than we should have? And how do we actually support that? How do we look at nutrition to, I guess, support stress? That's a big one too, is how do we get enough B vitamins, magnesium, selenium to support things like stress? And it's very doable.
Well, that might need to be our next podcast. Just talking about stress.
I think stress is next on the menu. I think it's absolutely true. We need to look a bit more at the stress department, because that's huge as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Oh,
Well,
good. Well,
great to catch up, Emma. And,
absolutely.
we
Same
will
to
be
you.
back.
We'll be back. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.